Welcome to Write to Publish, your go-to podcast for all things writing and publishing. I'm Karen Stanley, a 14 times published author and the founder of Mabel and Stanley Publishing. Join me as I share a multitude of tips and insights drawn from my own writing and publishing journey. We'll be hearing from some inspirational authors too, who will share their writing experiences and top tips for success. Each week, we'll learn about an aspect of writing, from composition to genre and from publishing to marketing. Listen in as we learn and chat about all things writing and publishing, and let's get you on the right path. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Write to Publish with me, Karen Stanley. So this week, I want to talk to you a little bit more about author promotion. It's one of the things that my authors, clients I work with, people I know who write books, find the hardest thing to do, because at the end of the day, us writers, we're creatives and we're not necessarily geared towards marketing and all things sales. But unfortunately, it's a huge part of how well your book will do. It's kind of like opening a shop and then not telling anybody it's there. If they don't know it's there, they won't buy it. And it's funny, I had a chat with a guy today who had published a book, and he'd put his book on Amazon. He had a few books actually that he'd put out on Amazon and really wasn't getting much traction, wasn't getting very much sales, but had done really, really well with his books in his business, because the books that he'd written were specifically for the people that he worked with. And he'd sold, quite a few thousand copies that way, and was quite disappointed about the sales that he'd made on Amazon. And as I said to him, at the end of the day, really, the whole point of writing a book is to appeal to your reader. And your reader will be different depending on your genre and the style of book and the content of your book. So for people who write business books, for example, it will be people in their field of business, clients, future clients. That's going to be their ideal reader. For people who write children's books, for example, then your ideal reader is obviously going to be children. And lots of authors that I've worked with who've written children's books will promote those books through kind of tours around schools. They might do workshops, they might do author talks, they might do storytelling workshops, that kind of thing. So whatever book you write, you've got to get it in front of your audience, because if you don't, unfortunately, unless you are a household name, unless you are super well known, no one's going to know who you are, no one's going to know that you've written a book, no one's going to know where to find your book, or harshly even care where to find your book. So we had a long chat, and I said to him, at the end of the day, you've put your book on Amazon, but that is not enough. That's not going to guarantee you sales. You have made lots of sales in your business because you've been visiting your clients, you've been getting in touch with your reader when you go around and you do talks or you do workshops, or however your business operates. He was selling, sometimes several hundred books at each of these events that he went to, which is amazing. But he wasn't doing the same on Amazon. And I said, that's because your book is just, amongst lots of other books. So you've got to really raise your head above the parapet. You've got to do stuff to get yourself out there as an author. And there are lots of different ways in which you can do that. And we'll be talking about those various ways over the coming weeks. And I think it was last week, or it was either last week or the week before, where I did talk about the various ways in which you can promote yourself as an author, either on social media, through email marketing, through podcast interviews. I know I offer my Mabel and Stanley authors the chance to have a podcast interview with me, which then goes out to a wider audience. So there's lots of ways in which you can do it. But what I thought we'd do was try and kind of tackle each one of those in turn, because they're different approaches and they require a different setup. So it's not enough. I'm the bearer of bad news, I'm afraid. It's not enough to put your book onto Amazon and expect sales. You've got to market the heck out of it. If you don't, no one's going to know it's there. You're not going to sell any, and that can become a little bit disheartening. You can do things like Amazon ads, but you really need a profile. People need to know who you are. People need to know about you. I've said it a million times. People buy from people. So once they get to know you as an author, as a business person, as somebody they know, like, and trust, as somebody they respect or value or want to hear more from, then obviously that's how they're going to start to want to buy your book and even know it's out there. It's exactly the reason why a lot of celebrities will write a book. It's kind of a done deal for them. If you've got all of that kudos, if you've got all of that visibility, people know who you are, whether you are famous or infamous. They're going to be interested in what you've got to say. Not necessarily all of these celebrity books are even works of literary genius, shall we say, but they've got the platform, they've got that ready-made audience there. So what I wanted to talk to you today about is email marketing. Now, there's lots of thought that says, the money is in the list. And this really is true, particularly for authors. If you imagine, if you have a list full of dedicated fans or followers, whenever you bring out a book, so say, for example, you're writing a trilogy or you're writing a series, when you bring out your next book and you've got, I don't know, several hundred, several thousand, if you're lucky, people on your list, those are the first people that you're going to email, that you're going to notify to say that your new book is coming out. Those people are already invested in you. It's very different to putting stuff out on social media. Putting stuff on social media is, very powerful, impactful. And if you approach it in a way where you keep up the engagement, you keep up the consistency and the visibility, it can be very effective. But once people have come into your world, once people have signed up for your email list, once they've kind of invested in you, they've shown that interest, they've committed to being part of your world, then you've kind of got them down that buying route partly already, because they've already invested in you. They've already shown an interest. They're already engaged in what you've been offering. And this is certainly true with email marketing. So say, for example, I'd written a book and it had done pretty well, and I'd built up my list of fans, followers, people who'd subscribed to my list. And then when I brought out book 2, straight away, I've almost got not guaranteed sales. There's no, it's not an exact science, but, those sales are going to be much more guaranteed than you putting out something on social media and hoping that the right people see it. So with email marketing, the way to build your list, and again, I had someone message me the other day and say that they were thinking of using this publisher because she had promised to do her marketing. Now, that's quite a bold promise. And I've no doubt that maybe this person, I don't know this person very well, but I don't know this person at all. But I've heard this said a lot, this person's going to do my marketing. It really does very much imply that it's a one and done type situation. It really isn't. Marketing is a long game. It takes commitment. It takes dedication. It takes resilience. You have to be tenacious. You just have to keep on keeping on. So when someone says they're going to do your marketing for you, the very first question I would be asking is, well, how long for? Because, if you're not going to do my marketing for a prolonged period of time, then I'm not really going to get huge results from that. Which is why a lot of the publishing companies will take on somebody famous, because the marketing is sort of a done deal. The audience is out there waiting, ready to receive whatever that person puts out. So when someone says they're going to do my marketing, that does make me a little nervous. Yes, of course you can get people to help with your marketing. Yes, of course you've got people who are very good at that. I myself help people with book marketing, but I don't ever promise that I will do the marketing, because that implies that once I've done it, it's done, and it's very much an ongoing process. So with email marketing, what you need to do primarily, it kind of does what it says on the tin, you need to get people engaged and signing up to your email list. And there's several ways that you can do this, mainly through the use of what we call a lead magnet. And a lead magnet is something that you offer, usually for free or for a very low cost, in order for people to sign up and in exchange for their email address. So you might, as an author, you might put out something like a newsletter. Sign up to my newsletter, find out what's happening behind the scenes at Karen Stanley Writer, for example. Give me your email address and I'll keep you in the loop. It might be that you offer something like a new complimentary chapter from your new book, or a follow-up chapter from your first book that has never been released, exclusive access to an extra chapter that, hit the cutting room floor, or something that I decided not to use, or something that's an add-on, like a little extra. It could be something like that. It could be something like it could be a podcast. So you could be doing author interviews with other authors and getting people to engage with you that way. It could be something like a blog. Lots of writers will blog because obviously you've got that skill already. So they'll be putting out a weekly or a monthly blog about specific writing topics or about their books, or perhaps they'll be blogging about their writing process, how they create their character profiles, or about their writer's life. Perhaps they're a travel writer, and perhaps they combine blogging about their travel with their writing. There's lots of things that you can offer that people will quite happily give you their email address in exchange for. So blogs, newsletters, podcasts, free chapters, writer's life, maybe a giveaway. Perhaps you could have a little competition, signed copies, that kind of thing. But something that will get people into your world, get them curious about your world, get them engaged in what you're writing, engaged in you as a writer and wanting to engage further. And then what you do once you've got their email addresses, you add them to an email software like MailChimp or MailerLite. There are lots of them. And then what you'll do is you'll periodically nurture these email addresses, the owners of these email addresses, with regular emails, usually like weekly. Monthly, I would say, is a bit too long. So definitely weekly, keeping them updated, either sending out your latest newsletter or by sending out the link to your latest podcast episode, or giving them the sneaky chapters, whatever it is that you want to get them. It might be a writing tip for the day, or you might start sort of book blogging. I know it sounds a bit counterproductive, but you might be starting to review other people's books, and then you can kind of slip your book in amongst that as well, just to raise your profile. So once you've got their email addresses, you're going to nurture them weekly, bi-weekly. You might get away with monthly, but the more you nurture them, the better, with whatever it is that you've promised them. And news from the world of your writing world. And then what that means is, by growing that email list, as I say, then when you've got a new book coming out or a new chapter, or what you're building the buzz up towards a launch of your next book, then these people are the people that you're going to be emailing with news of that launch, with news of that offer, with news of, bits of things about your book. And keeping those people engaged, that when you've got something new to release, like your next book, for example, those people are going to be poised and ready to buy, because you've nurtured them, you've built the buzz, you've kept them excited, you've kept them interested, so they're engaged. This is your fan base, in inverted commas. You want to create a loyal following of fans, people who love your genre, love what you write, love you as a writer, your style, and perhaps, some of the things that you put out on social media, perhaps you're a bit funny or humorous, or perhaps if you're writing, I don't know, crime, perhaps you've got some, facts and figures that you can share about, I don't know, people who write police procedurals and things like that. Whatever it is, you've got those people engaged, and then when you release something, that's going to be your surge of sales that's going to come from there, because those people are already invested in you. So that is email marketing. The other great thing about email marketing is, for example, if your social media goes down, or someone hacks your account, which does happen, or, for example, it's very easy to get yourself banned on Facebook for no apparent reason, and very difficult to unban sometimes. These things do go wrong, joking aside. If you lose your social media, you're a bit stuck, because you don't own that. You don't own the people, you don't own their details, unless you've collected their email addresses. So if your Facebook does go down, or your other social media platforms go down, you've still got the access to all of those people, all of those potential readers, all of those potential clients are there in your world, and you can keep them informed, keep them up to date by nurturing them through ongoing emails. So building an email list, it's a crucial part of building a fan base, building a group of people who are interested in what you've got to provide. And before I go, just one final thing, a great way to collect email addresses if you're keen to kind of boost your list and get a little bit of a boost to it is you can engage in something called Book Sweep. If you Google it online, you can find it. And this is where you pay for email addresses. Now, I would never recommend that you do this ordinarily. I certainly wouldn't be paying companies on Instagram or Facebook, we guarantee we'll get you, 1,000 extra followers. Unfortunately, in lots of occasions, those are either bots or kind of fake accounts, or, they're not bona fide addresses, and also they could be just random 1,000 people who aren't in your target market anyway, so it's kind of a waste of your money. But Book Sweep is quite a good idea, because what it is, several authors, I think it costs about £50. It's not an awful lot of money, but please don't quote me on that. You'd need to do your research. So several authors will engage in a book sweep, and the people who enter the book sweep, the customer, the reader, will buy tickets or buy, a place in almost like a big raffle, I guess, online. And every author who has entered into this, what is effectively a prize draw, will be required to donate a copy of one of their books. Now, what this means is that however many authors have participated in this sweep, and it's usually quite a few, maybe like 20 or 30, then each of those readers who've taken part in the raffle have the chance to win that hamper of books. So from the punter's point of view, they've paid a few quid and they stand to win a really good box of books. On the author's part, it's a good deal, because although they've paid £50, in exchange for that, they will get all of the email addresses of the people who've entered that competition, and it can be up to 500 addresses. So it's a really good kind of exchange. You do pay, but what you're getting back are readers. They're not bots. They're people who are interested in books, interested in reading books, and have entered this competition because they want to win books. The only caveat to that is that you will probably find that the very first time you email out all of these people who've taken part in the book sweep, a fellow author friend of mine does this quite regularly, and he said sometimes he might get half of those subscribers drop away, and he kind of says, well, that's okay with him. He's quite pleased about that, because that means usually that they aren't his readers of his genre. I think he writes sci-fi, I think. So he knows that there'll be lots of people who are really up for sci-fi and lots of people who really aren't. So really, you want those people to drop off soon, because then when you're nurturing those people through emails, those are the people who are stuck around because they're still interested in your genre. Okay, because obviously when you emailed them out the first time, you'd say, hi, lovely to meet you. Thanks for engaging the book sweep. How are you enjoying my novel? If they then say, do you know what, it's not for me, and they drop off, absolutely great. You know where you stand. If they say, this is great, I love it, really pleased to be part of your world, you know that you've got another person into your email list who is interested in what you've got to do. And it's a really great way to grow your list a bit more quickly, because before I go today, one thing I would say, the same as I started saying, it's not a one and done situation. It's going to take you time to grow that list. You're not going to grow it overnight, and you're going to have to keep on keeping on, getting those emails in via your lead magnets, nurturing those emails. Whenever you go to Author Talks, try and collect as many email addresses as you can, because you never know, those people in your list will potentially be your customers, and that's why your email list is so important. So I hope that's been helpful for you this week. If you are an author looking to grow your audience, then you really do need to grow your email list. And if you haven't started one, you really do need to start one and get that fan base engaged and getting excited for everything, hanging on your every word for everything you may or may not release. If you do have any questions, please do get in touch with me, mabel&stanley@outlook.com. I'm always happy to help. If you get stuck with your marketing, or you want a few pointers or a little bit of inspiration, then I'm always happy to help. So enjoy, get those email lists growing, get that fan base growing, get writing and get your books out there. Lovely to speak to you again. Thanks for joining me. See you all again next week.